Hey everybody, it's Rod with Van Guns coming back at you with another video. Today, I want to talk about the sidearm that sits on the nightstand in a gun safe, of course, at my house, and why I still like that gun. .40 Smith & Wesson. That is the cartridge that is in my Beretta 96 Centurion. I switched from 1911s to this gun years and years and years ago. And I thought I'd do a little video kind of talk about why this is still on my nightstand. So what is it? Well, first of all, we'll clear the gun. We have no magazine and no cartridges in this firearm. This is an old school Surefire light that I have on the bottom here. It's got a little pressure sensitive switch. When I squeeze the trigger, it blinds you. So that's what the bad guy sees. I also have one of those old school laser grip lasers on it as well. The gun's set up pretty well for when things go bump in the night. So I love the Beretta 92F, and that of course was the civilian version of the M9 that the United States military forces switched out to in the mid-1980s. This was just the same exact gun, but chambered in .40 Smith & Wesson. I always loved the way the Beretta 92 felt. I had a friend who had one. It was just such a great gun. It was such a good gun to shoot. It takes down real easy. I like double action, single action triggers. This is a double action, single action with a decocker. It's ambidextrous too, which is nice, although I'm right-handed. But if you're left-handed, the controls are ambidextrous on this gun, which is really nice. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a gun that I could replace my 1911 chambered in .45. And for me, I wanted the little extra punch that .45 had over 9mm, and .40 Smith & Wesson kind of does that. .40 Smith & Wesson and .45 ACP have very similar ballistics. You know, the .45 is a bigger, heavier bullet, moving slower. A little bit smaller bullet in the .40, but moving faster. But you end up with real similar benchmarks as far as energy goes. But the real thing was, I like double action, single action, and I've talked about that in other videos. And I also like having a little more capacity than just 8+1 in the pipe. And this gun, back in the 90s when it came out, the standard capacity was 11. And and I have a couple of those original 11-round magazines. I also have some 10-rounders when they had that period where you couldn't buy magazines with more than 10 rounds. Beretta had a whole bunch of 10-rounders for this, and I've got a few of those as well. But the 96 is still made. Beretta still makes this gun. And they now have a standard capacity for the .40 Smith & Wesson at 13 rounds. So I'll clear the gun again. I do have a loaded magazine here. I'm going to put the loaded magazine in the gun. We're not going to chamber around, however, but you can see that it fits flush on the bottom, just like the old 11-rounders did. So, you know, whatever hocus pocus magic tech they did on magazines and spring tension and all of that, 13 rounds. These are made by Metgar, which is the official magazine supplier for Beretta, and they work great. I've run them down at the range. I've never had a problem, no misfeeds, no problems at all with these 13 rounders. So 13 rounds, you know, that's an extra 5 rounds over the 1911. And because the .40 is a little bit skinnier bullet, the gun's not that much thicker. Even though it's got a double stack magazine, you know, .40 is definitely significantly smaller. The bullet diameter is significantly smaller. So, you know, it's only a little thicker than a 9mm pistol would be with a double stack. So you don't have this real fat grip like you do with double stack 1911s. So I was real excited when Metgar released a slightly oversized magazine. So it's got this little thick base, holds 15 rounds. So 15 rounds of 40 Smith & Wesson. 15 round magazine. So we have a loaded magazine, but not one in the chamber. You can see the size. It hangs down just a bit. I don't mind one bit. Fits my hand great. I now have 15 rounds of 40 Smith & Wesson. Okay, that is amazing. And I think that's really ideal. I've got a nice, potent self-defense cartridge here. This gun is a full-size gun. 40 is known for being kind of snappy, but this Beretta is great. It shoots nice and soft, considering the 40 S&W is quite a bit stronger than 9mm. Now, it does not shoot as soft as the 92F with 9mm. So this one is a little rougher than that, but it is really no worse than a 45, 1911 in terms of its recoil. It's, and the extra weight of this Surefire light on the front certainly helps with the snappiness, with that tendency for the muzzle to want to come up. And at the range, I can, get a nice tight fist-sized group at 7 yards, with pretty much a mag dump, maybe a flyer here and there. So I'm pretty happy with the performance. The Beretta, and I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this magazine. Okay, clear. The thing I really like about this 96 is, again, it's got the ergonomics and the feel and the comfort and the shootability of the 92F with the bigger 40 Smith & Wesson cartridge. It doesn't have as much recoil as you'll find in a 10mm pistol. Which is kind of where the 40 Smith & Wesson came from, with that whole FBI thing, right? They had 9mm, they got into that big shootout, they thought they were outmatched, so they said, well, let's go to 10mm. And then all of a sudden the agents were complaining that the gun's too hot and it's too much recoil and they weren't practicing. And so Smith & Wesson stepped up and said, hey, how about we get something in between? And that's kind of what 40 Smith & Wesson is. It's in between 9mm and 10mm. And in this gun, it's a very easy to shoot caliber. And you're getting, 9mm, typically you're getting 350 to 400 foot-pounds of energy out of a 9. You can find some hotter 9s. With 40 Smith & Wesson, you're typically getting upper 3s to mid 4s. And again, there's some super hot 40s that you can find out there as well. But you're basically getting 50 to 75 extra foot-pounds of energy. You're a little bit more energy on average than 45 ACP, actually. So it's a nice comparable cartridge to 45 ACP. But I get 15 rounds of it in this firearm that shoots well, it's accurate, it's easy to take down. So as a matter of fact, we'll go ahead and do the takedown right now. So I'm right-handed. The takedown controls are over on this side of the gun. But basically, you lock this slide back using this lever right here. Then you've got this little lever right here, and you just have to pull that down. You push this little button on this side. That pushes in and releases this little pin here and lets you pull that lever down. And then this lever will simply slide down. Hard for me to hold it up to the camera. I'll try to get a picture up here on the side. And then, once you've done that, you simply release it, and it just slides right off. Super easy. So, I like that. I like guns that take down very quickly. You can do it in a matter of seconds, okay? In front of a camera, fumbling around, trying to hold the gun up, maybe takes a little longer. Recoil spring's held in with simple spring tension, so you just take your finger like this, pull that out. There's your recoil spring and pin, and then the barrel just comes right out, just like you would other pistols, all right? So it just pops out like that, okay? Pretty simple reverse order to put it back together. You can find videos specifically for takedown procedures on just about any gun you might own. And you slap the spring back down in there, and it's just held in place. I mean, if I smack this thing, it'll go flying out. So, but it's just held in with simple spring tension. Then you take the slide, slide it back on, like so, go back like this. Once again, turn that little pin back into the position it was in before, and now you have a ready-to-go firearm. Again, we are clear here. No magazine in the gun. Should always, when taking down a firearm, working on a firearm, you should have Obviously, no ammunition in the gun, and preferably don't even put the magazine in. Safety on this is an interesting safety. So it's ambidextrous. You flip that up like that. That's the fire position. Now you got a heavy double action pull here. And it's very heavy pull, like revolver heavy. Okay? Very heavy. Now, when you fire that first round with that heavy trigger pull, obviously the slide's going to come back like so. And now it's ready. You can see the trigger's kind of cocked back. You don't have hardly any take up at all. It's ready to go. Okay? And it's got a nice, see, a little bit of take up there, but not much. All right? And then it fires. And now the reset right there. Nice quick reset on this gun. I've never short stroked the trigger on this. You know, where you pull it so fast didn't go past the reset. And I have mag dumped this. So, you know, it's not a 1911 trigger, but I think Beretta's got the best, this gun and the 92F have the best double action, single action trigger I think I've ever messed with. I've got several other guns with double action, single action, and I really do believe Beretta's the best at it. Now, I may someday pick up a gun I've never shot before and go, wow, this is great. But it's an amazing double action, single action trigger. You know, if you're a 1911 person, there's really no beating a 1911 or a 2011 trigger. You know, those are the best triggers in the business, but those are single action only. Okay, so that's a completely different class of pistol. I like double action, single action. I mentioned it in the last video about the Sig Sauer P220. I like having the safety off and a heavy, heavy first trigger pull. So when I load this gun, and I'm not going to do it right now on the video, but let's just imagine I put a loaded 15-round magazine in here. So I'm going to have the safety in the on position. Okay, so the safety's on. You can always tell the safety's on because the trigger's all just sloppy like that. Okay, if I move it into this position, safety's off. Now there's tension on the trigger. It's ready to fire. All right, so safety off. Put the magazine in the gun. Chamber around. So now I've got 14 in the magazine, 1 in the pipe. Then I eject the magazine. I put the 15th round that's now just sitting there in the magazine, and then I reinsert the magazine. Now I have 15 in the magazine, 1 in the pipe. Safety's on. Now you could just put the gun away and you're ready to go. And when you're, God forbid you ever need to use the gun, you just flip the safety up. It's ambidextrous either side. You just flip that up with your thumb and it's ready. Okay? Or you can just leave it with that safety off and you've got a heavy first trigger pull. You grab the firearm and off you go. No safety to worry about, nothing. Okay, so your choice, how you want to store that firearm, how you feel most comfortable. That's the Beretta 96D Centurion. This gun was made in the 90s. They still make it today. The modern ones have a pick rail underneath, which greatly improves your availability of attachments and accessories. This gun is just smooth on the bottom, and so this Surefire was actually made specifically for the gun. It actually made for a variety of guns. I mentioned in my Sig Sauer P220 video, this light will also fit on that Sig Sauer with the same kit. So just happens to fit. But it was made for this gun, for this Beretta. And I think it also fits the 92F. I like it. It's a nice light. And Surefire, of course, I put zillions of rounds through it with this Surefire light on here. You know, they make really good products. Years and years ago, I was a wholesale representative for Surefire. That's really all I got on the Beretta 96. You know, I'm going to do a series of videos where I go down to the local gun range and video. You know, I've got a little 180-degree little sports camera that I got attached to the bill of a cap. And I'm thinking about going out and firing some of these guns off and, you know, so that you can kind of see, you know, how they shoot, how much muzzle flip there is. You can kind of see it. So that's going to be coming up here on the channel sometime in the next few months. I want to go into the gun range and make sure they're okay with me having a small micro cam on the bill of my cap. I don't think they'll mind, especially if I mention their store in the video. But anyway, that's all I got on the Beretta 96D Centurion. You can pick these guns up used on Gunbroker at gun shows. Anywhere $500 to $600, I think, maybe $400 if it's a little worn out. Now, one last thing, you can convert this 96 to 9mm, and it doesn't require anything other than a barrel swap. You can just literally swap the barrel out to 9mm, and of course you would need the 9mm magazines that fit the 92F. And the only thing you might have a problem going from 40 to 9 is the spring in this gun might be a little too stiff, but if you were loading hot 9s, it would probably work fine. You can find some YouTubers out there that have done that with just a barrel swap and then run the gun and it runs fine. But worst case scenario, you put the barrel in there and a new recoil spring. You know, the recoil spring from the 92F maybe. So look at that on YouTube. I've never done that, but I've seen it done. And apparently you can then have this as kind of a dual caliber gun, you know, 9mm or 40 Smith & Wesson. So that's kind of cool. So that's my nightstand gun. That's all I got today. This is Rod with Van Guns. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. And we'll be back at you soon with another video.